Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So today's video is going to be all about my Juvia's Place eyeshadow palette collection. I just filmed a video like this on my ColourPop collection, so I'll link that video in the description box below. But in today's video, I'm going to go through and chat about the different Juvia's Place eyeshadow palettes that I have, and I'll do close-ups and swatches and let you guys know which palette I think would work for you based on your personal preferences. Juvia's Place is one of my favorite brands. They make amazingly high-quality eyeshadow palettes. The formula is really superior, especially because the brand is so affordable. They are a little bit more expensive than drugstore, but definitely more affordable than high-end, and they are available now at Ulta. I actually purchased all of my palettes from the Juvia's Place website, and then I got a few from Haute Look, but Juvia's Place runs sales all the time. I think I got the majority of these for like 40% off, so I would definitely recommend waiting until you can grab them on sale because that is a great deal. They're already so affordable, but if you can get them for a discounted price, that makes them like the cost of a drugstore palette. And my friend Nicole Cutler actually filmed a video like this, I want to say a year ago, so I'll link her channel and her video in the description box below. She's one of the reasons why I decided to try out a bunch of these palettes because I bought some of them based on her recommendations. And I think in that video, she features palettes that I don't have. So if you guys want to hear more thoughts on different palettes from somebody else, she is a person that I definitely trust. I love her recommendations, so I'll link her video below. So I think I'll go through the palettes that have more colorful shadows in them, and then I'll finish up with the mainly neutral palettes. So my favorite is the Masquerade Mini palette, and I just want to say I am going to hold the palettes up, but sometimes when I'm in this setting, they come off a little bit different than they actually look in person. I'll do the best I can with the close-up swatches, but obviously feel free to Google just to kind of cross-reference if you're buying a palette based on this video. This palette actually comes in two different sizes. They have a large palette available for $30. This one is the mini palette available for $25. The large palettes are super big. I honestly don't think it's necessary to grab the large palette unless you think you'll use the shadows over and over and maybe hit pan on them. They're not powdery, so typically I don't hit pan on them. You just need a little bit, and a little bit goes such a long way. So this palette comes with 16 different shadows. You get a mix of mattes and metallics, but you also get a mix of colorful shadows and neutrals. This is probably my favorite Juvia's Place palette just because you can do so much with it. There are so many beautiful colors in here, and this is probably one of the first palettes I reached for when I first started getting into colorful eyeshadow, just because these shadows are so easy to use. The Juvia's Place metallic formula is so richly pigmented, so you can just go in with your finger and apply it all over the lid and then blend out the edges with a brush, and you have a one eyeshadow look that was so quick and simple. The metallic shadows will stay in place so well throughout the day, and they're definitely a powder shadow, but they have more of a creamy texture, so they're just very easy to work with. The matte shadows are not powdery at all, and I find that because they are so pigmented, you just need the smallest amount. Now, if you're a beginner when it comes to eyeshadow, the matte shadows might be a little bit more difficult to work with because sometimes you have to blend them really well on the eyes because they are so pigmented. But if you don't mind spending a few extra minutes blending, you can get a really gorgeous look because they are so richly saturated. So you do get a lot of warm-toned neutrals in here, which is nice. So you can do a completely neutral look, or you can build the look with some of the neutral shadows and then take a colorful shade and place it all over the lid or on the lower lash line. And it's just a fun way to incorporate color into your makeup routine. Now, a lot of the colors in here are very bold, very vibrant. So if you don't typically reach for very bold, colorful shadows, there might be another palette that I'll talk about in today's video that could be better for you. But if you're wanting to get into color, or you think that these colors are really interesting, really fun, I don't think you could go wrong with this. I really enjoy this palette. It's my favorite. I want to talk about another colorful palette. This one is the Magic Mini. Again, this one does come in a larger palette that retails for $30. This one retails for $25, and it is the same size as the Masquerade Mini. So this one also comes with 16 different shades. You get 6 mattes and 10 metallics. So it is a mainly metallic palette. This one is a little bit newer to my personal makeup collection, but I'm really enjoying it because there's so much going on. Again, this one has a lot of color. It does have some neutrals, but I don't feel feel like it is as neutral as the Masquerade Mini. This one tends to be more colorful in general, but the colorful shadows are on the lighter side, which is kind of nice because if you are intimidated by really vibrant, intense jewel tones, this might be a fun way to incorporate color into your look in a more wearable way. This palette does have a few warm tones like the orange and red matte shadows, but in general, a lot of the shades are very cool toned. So if you tend to reach for cooler toned, colorful shades and cooler toned, light colorful shades, this one is going to be the perfect palette for you. I just think it's a lot of fun to play with. The palette that I'm wearing on my eyes today is the Tribe palette. This one retails for $20. It is one of their newer palettes, and I really enjoy it. I think that this palette does challenge me to step outside of my comfort zone a little bit. I do love wearing colorful shadows, but sometimes I get like in a rut and I'll wear like the same blue shadows or the same purple shadows over and over. This color combination is really interesting, really unique, and I will be honest and say that I don't typically get a lot of use out of the top 3 shadows, but I use the bottom 6 shadows all the time. So this one comes with 9 different shades. You get 5 mattes and 4 metallics, and it's a really fun palette. I really haven't seen anything like this on the market. So if you like green shadows, you like oranges, then this might be a fun palette to add to your collection. I do get a few complete looks, like I can create a neutral look, I can do something similar to what I'm wearing today, but typically I don't mix like the green shadows and the orange shadows. So I do typically use it as like an accent palette, or I use it alongside of other palettes that I have in my collection, whether they're Juvia's Place or not. I'm wearing this shade in the crease and I just blended it up as like a transition, and then I placed this color all over the lid and layered this one on top, and that's literally all I did to get today's look. I did use a white from another palette to kind of blend everything up near my brow bone, but it's a fun palette and it's definitely different from a lot of the palettes that I have in my makeup collection. So if you're looking for something super unique, this one's going to be a great option. If you tend to stick with neutrals, I would skip over this one. So let's talk about the Saharan palette. This was actually one of my first Juvia's Place palettes. It retails for $20 and you get 12 different shadows. There are 4 mattes and 8 shimmers or metallics, so you don't get a lot of matte shadows. And again, 2 of the mattes are like those bright orangey red tones, and then one's a brown and one's a black. There's a good mix of neutrals and colorful shades, but this one's a little bit more toned down than the first palette I showed you guys, the Masquerade palette. So I feel like the colorful metallic shadows aren't as vibrant or bold. So if you are pretty intimidated by like really vibrant, intense, colorful shadows, this one might actually be a great option because it does have a good amount of neutrals, and the more colorful shades aren't as out of the box as some of the other colorful Juvia's Place eyeshadows. So I think that this one is a great option if you are typically a neutral eyeshadow fan and you want to step outside of the box a little bit, but you're not ready for like bright blues and bright purples, because this one is just a fun, mainly neutral palette with a few pops of color. Okay, another palette that's a little bit newer to my collection is the Afrique palette. This one retails for $20. Okay, so there are 12 different shades in here. There are 7 mattes and 5 metallics. This one is a little bit newer to my makeup collection. So again, I haven't played around with it a ton. I have worn it a few times, and this one's nice because a lot of the matte shadows are very colorful, which I don't typically have in eyeshadow palettes, even some of my Juvia's Place palettes. There's a really nice green, a beautiful blue, a yellow, an orange, but you also get a nice mix of neutrals as well. So this one really is a balanced palette because you can create a very colorful look or a very neutral look. If you mostly wear neutrals, but you like to add colorful mattes every once in a while, this one's a nice choice. So if you want a nice mid-toned palette, I would go with one of these. The Saharan palette is a little bit more of like a warm-toned neutral palette, and the Afrique palette has a lot of color going on, but you do get a few pops of neutral. The 3 palettes that I'm going to talk about next are like completely neutral palettes. There really aren't even like pops of color in them. So if you wear neutrals on like a day-to-day basis, these are going to be the palettes for you. The first one is the Nubian palette. This is also one of the first palettes that I tried from the brand. This one retails for $20. So this one comes with 12 different shadows. You get 4 mattes and 8 shimmers or metallics. This one's a good introductory palette if you wear neutral looks all the time. If like neutrals are your thing, if you wear browns and coppers, you're really going to enjoy this palette because it performs so beautifully. I think it's a nice introductory palette to the brand as a whole because it's easy to work with. You can really reach into any of these shadows and get a really easy, seamless look. A lot of times I'll take like one of the matte shadows and blend it into the crease, and then take a metallic shadow and place it all over the lid with my finger, and I'm done. It takes like 5 minutes, and I have a nice, warm-toned, neutral look. So the next palette I want to talk about is the Warrior palette. This one is also a neutral palette, but it's kind of like an edgy version, or like an edgy older sister to the Nubian palette. This is something that I would reach for if I was doing like a date night look, or I wanted like a bronzed goddess type of look. It's a really fun palette. So it comes with 9 different shadows. The pans, of course, are very large, but it comes with 3 mattes and 6 shimmers. It's just an insanely gorgeous palette, and every single time I go to use it, I'm so excited because you can get so many beautiful looks. Every single shade in this palette looks stunning on the eyes, and they complement each other really, really well. It does only come with 3 matte shadows, but I feel like the 3 matte shadows in here work well with all of the metallic shadows. So you can definitely get a bunch of different seamless looks just using this palette, or you can mix it with other palettes in the collection, and I just think that the shadows in here are very gold, very bronzy, very, very beautiful on the eyes. It's really fun for summer, but of course, if you have a darker skin tone, this would look amazing on you too, as would any of the Juvia's Place palettes. It's a little bit more fun to wear than like a typical brown neutral palette. It does have browns, but it also has bronze tones, golds, and I just think you get a really interesting look every single time you use this palette. And the last palette I want to talk about is the Warrior 2. Again, this is a palette that's a little bit newer to my collection. It's honestly not something that I reach for as much as I thought I would. This one retails for $20, and you do get 9 different shades in here. This is their first all matte palette. If matte shadows are your thing, this is going to be a great addition to your collection because you do get so many staple colors in here. I like the Juvia's Place matte shadow formula, but I don't like it as much as the metallic shadow formula. The Juvia's Place matte shadows are nice, but I do feel like they sometimes take a little extra work to blend out because they are so creamy. Sometimes when you first apply them to the lid, you get a really intense, vibrant application from the beginning. So, you know, they're not shadows that I reach for when I'm doing like a really quick, simple, easy eye look, at least the matte shadows. But I do think they are really nice. They are really vibrant. So there's definitely a place in your makeup collection for them. But if you are not somebody who wears matte shadows all the time, I don't think you really need this palette unless you really love the colors. So that is the end of my video. I hope this video was helpful if you guys were trying to decide on a palette that would work well for you. I wanted to swatch everything because Juvia's Place shadows swatch how they apply. Sometimes swatches are very intense, and then you go to place a shadow on the eyes and it's a little bit lackluster. That is not the case with Juvia's Place. I always apply their metallic shadows with my finger, so they swatch the exact same way they apply to the eyes. So if you saw swatches and you were like, those look a little bit too good to be true, it's not the case with Juvia's Place because their metallic shadows are so rich and smooth. Again, like I said in the video, the matte shadows sometimes take a little extra effort to blend out, but if you have a little extra time, or you don't mind taking the time to do that because they will stay in place well on the eyes once they're down, then I do recommend checking them out. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys very soon with a new video. Bye.